we have infamous Vinod Khosla, and we would like to ask you a couple of questions for entrepreneurs outside of the United States. What are the most difficult challenges that entrepreneurs have to overcome, both mentally, physically? What are the bottlenecks that you see in entrepreneurs from other countries?
Well, one, the biggest thing I find is people are afraid to fail. And when they're afraid to fail, it almost ensures that they will never do anything really significant because they won't take any risks. So I do believe risk-taking is very key in not being afraid of failure. I always say my willingness to fail gives me the ability to succeed, is really the key. The other thing entrepreneurs, I always tell entrepreneurs, is the thing that causes them to fail are not their strengths. They normally know what they do well, but they don't pay enough attention to what their liabilities are, what they don't do well. And so they should spend a lot of time thinking about that and build a plan, a business plan, that includes both their assets to maximize their impact and to minimize their liabilities. And entrepreneurs generally don't do that. I think both those are quite important. The most difficult thing I find an entrepreneur does is trying to decide whose opinion to take. If you're an entrepreneur, you can get lots of advice, but usually it's from people who are not qualified to give that advice. So if somebody is very successful in a big company, their advice may be exactly the wrong advice if you're trying to do a startup. And so knowing whose opinion to trust and on what topic. A different person's more useful on each topic, but entrepreneurs tend not to discriminate. So that's very, very important. It's very important to get a lot of advice, but it's also important to mostly ignore the advice, because the advice is important as to what kinds of things might fail. But in the end, if you don't trust your gut and don't have religion, then it won't work.
Got it. What would be the most typical disbelief that young entrepreneurs have that you often sort of see that they're stubborn to overcome?
I like people with stubborn beliefs. You have to have religion about what you're trying to do. Otherwise, at the smallest obstacle, you'll give it up. So I like people with a belief system, a strong belief in something that they're doing. Having said that, that has to go with a very open mind to listening to a lot of ideas, processing them, and then coming to your own conclusions.
When you advise your startups that you have invested in the last few months or last year, what is different that you tell them that you, let's say, didn't tell startups, let's say, a few years ago? Is there anything?
Today, it becomes much, much easier to experiment with lots of new things. In the old days, it was much harder to change direction, or what I call pivot. And I tell people, try lots of things before you start having a big burn rate or a lot of people. Try a lot of things to see what will work before you set on one thing.
Great. Okay. Well, Mr. Khosla, thank you very much. We enjoyed having you on our video series. Thank you.
Thank you.